Hi, guys, and welcome to the first in a new series entitled Simply Redstone, which is a series where we'll be explaining redstone mechanics by building small machines and demonstrating how they work within larger ones. Our goal is to explain redstone from a beginner to intermediate level, and we hope that you'll join Rick and myself, Howitzer, while we learn about redstone together. Okay, let's go. So, welcome to our workshop, where we have a number of small machines here. In upcoming episodes, we'll delve into the workings of each of these and demonstrate how they can be incorporated into larger ones. Today, we hope to give you a quick overview, a sneak peek, let's say, into what this series is going to be all about. Rick has a much greater understanding of redstone compared to myself. I would consider myself a beginner, a noob at best. I would consider Rick to be more at the expert level, although he humbly considers himself more at intermediate level. Either way, we hope that you'll be able to learn along with me as we explore the inner workings of redstone. We hope that by pairing a beginner like myself with someone who is much more at an expert level, that hopefully we can cover a lot of the questions and topics that many other redstone tutorials gloss over. Okay, let's get into it. Okay, so here we have a number of small machines that later in the series will comprise some larger machines. We have some clocks and some switches, and why don't we go over some of them and show what they all do. So one of the first things that Rick, you were explaining to me was that if you hit F3, you can actually take a look at a piece of redstone block by block. And you can see over in the far right-hand corner where it shows the power output. And then as you move a block down, it loses its power. So all the way down to, I think it's, what, is it 15 blocks that it goes to zero?
I believe it's 15, yeah.
Okay. And to extend a signal, if you use a repeater, there has to be at least a power of 1, right?
Yes.
So if we put one here, we'll get an output. But if we put one here where there's a signal of 0, we don't. So
The fundamental function of a repeater is
okay.
to pick up a signal and boost it back to 15.
Okay, perfect.
It also has the ability to delay a signal up to 4 ticks. It's a 1 tick delay on default, and then you can set it to up to 4 ticks of delay, which can be really useful for timing.
Cool. Okay, so what do we have over here?
This is just another feature of the repeater. It shows how one repeater can lock another. So if you have a hot signal, you can lock that signal in the on position, or you have a dead signal, lock that repeater so that a signal can't go through it.
Okay. Kind of works almost similar to the way like a 3-way light switch does.
Right, yeah. Hook that up to an AND gate and interesting going on.
Cool. Okay, so from a repeater, we always get a signal of 15. But with a comparator, you were saying that the signal that comes out of a comparator is equivalent to what went into the comparator. Is that correct?
Yes, the function of a comparator basically has many functions, but essentially, if you need to extend a signal and you want it to remain the same, whatever comes in the back of a comparator is the same strength that comes out the front.
Okay, and you could chain them together if you want, or if you use a block in between, that actually acts as a conduit and it doesn't lose any signal strength either.
Right.
Cool. All right, and what do we have over here?
Well, this is just a demonstration of how you can use a comparator in subtract mode.
Okay.
So, for the purpose of your demonstration, this little dropper here has objects in it, and the comparator can pick up a signal based on the amount of objects.
Okay.
So the more objects it's filled, the more full it is, the stronger the signal. So just to set this up, I've got this over here to show what signal strength is coming out of the dropper.
So we have a signal strength of 8 coming out.
Right. Set up subtract mode, and when you look at this signal over here, if you would.
And now we've got 5.
If I fill this up with more items, the signal here gets stronger. The output now on this is 11.
Aha.
So,
yeah.
So the output on that becomes
2. So the stronger the signal going into the comparator in subtract mode, the lower the signal is on the output.
right, because we're losing some strength here by having this line running out.
Mm-hmm.
So going into it is 13, subtracting from it is 11, leaves a signal of 2. So there's plenty of applications for that. This is something that Fleshfoot showed me one time. I don't know where it came from, but it's really useful because instead of having to lay out, say, 10 dust to drop the signal by 10, you can just fill this up to the appropriate amount to where it, say, has a signal of 9, and then you subtract 10 from it and get 1.
Perfect. Cool. Okay, and what do we have over here?
This is a really basic T flip-flop. Hit the button. It's going through a monostable circuit. That cuts it off very quickly and gives it a 1-tick pulse. And so now you have a situation where you've turned the light on. Hit the button again, and you get the 1-tick pulse and turn the light off. The monostable circuit, I would definitely check out Mumbo Jumbo. He's a master at those. I think everybody uses them.
Okay.
But yeah, they're useful in so many different applications, and they can be used with buttons, switches, any kind of input. It just, as soon as the block gets powered, the piston pushes it out of the way, and so you get a pulse on this end, depending on how you set your repeater.
Okay. And then this one we're using a lever on it.
Just to show that that does the same thing.
Cool.
These we set up exactly the same way, but they're horizontal instead of vertical, just to show that also a pressure plate do the same thing. We turn the light on and we can turn it off.
And these basically, so they just work the exact same way as an on-off switch.
That's a T flip-flop. It is essentially an on-off switch. It has 2 states.
Cool. And I've actually used these before a couple of times. They work really well. All right. And this one looks a little bit different.
Well, this is Mumbo Jumbo's favorite T flip-flop, and I don't know if he invented it or where he got it from, but I learned it from him, and it's just 3 droppers running in a circle connected by a hopper. So when it fires off, it's got an object in the first one. You should probably show them because they're seeing things from your angle.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then when you hit the button, it shoots it up into the dropper, the hopper, and the hopper drops it in over here, and so now the comparator can pick up a signal from it.
Because there's an object in there, so there's a output based on the fact that there is something in the dropper.
Right, and when you hit it again, it moves back to where it started, and the signal turns off. And yeah.
So what would be the main reason of using this one as compared to using those ones?
Well, I like it because aside from a small click, it's silent, which is nice. It's also very small. It also can take input in easily 3 different areas, so you can have more than one action or line feeding the input, and it can also take output from 3 different lines easily.
Okay.
So it makes it very versatile. It's very small, it's very easy to build, and it'll fit almost anywhere.
Oh, that's very cool. Okay. And what do we have over here?
This, I never found it anywhere. I just came across this trying to get a particular result. I needed a situation where I had an automatic cow farm, and I had a situation where I needed it to pulse once so the water would come on when the machine was turned on, and then when I turned it off I needed another pulse. So I call this a rising falling edge circuit, and as you can see, I get a pulse when I turn it off, or when I turn it on, excuse me. I also get a pulse when I turn it off. A little confusing because powering this actually turns off the torch.
Okay.
But this can be useful in any situation where you need a pulse, turn something on, and when you turn it off. And it also gives you total access to getting a steady signal at the same time. So if you turn on the machine, it pulses to whatever you need it to pulse for, whether it's making the cows jump or making a light turn on. And then you have your signal running the machine. And then when you turn it off, it does just the opposite. It shuts everything down.
So you're actually going to get a pulse out of one end, but then you also have a continuous circuit at the same time out of this one.
Yeah. Well, not just there, but you can pull power out of various places depending on whether you need a on signal or an off signal. So it's quite small, very versatile, and very useful.
So those were all our switches, and over here we've got our clocks.
A clock by Minecraft definition is just something that constantly puts out an on-off signal. This one's kind of your basic clock from the early days. It just runs the signal round and round. But it's great because you can turn it off, so you have some control over it. This one is my favorite clock because it's very small. It's very versatile, and it works really well with dropper elevators for hoppers, because the comparator drives it, so you can take a signal off a hopper, off a dropper or a hopper, but off a dropper when it's full, when it has something in it, and it will run until the dropper empties out, and then it turns itself off. And this particular version is so great because it can't be overflowed. Take you over here and show you this style, which is one of the first ones I learned. This is an amazing clock, but if you fill it too full, the signal going in, it's too strong, and it will no longer function. It'll back up if it gets too much in it, because the signal coming in to the repeater is as strong as the signal coming in the back, so it just locks up.
Oh, okay. So that makes sense. So if this one has too many items, it'll basically become just a constant solid state.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is just a vertical type clock. It's a great clock. I like it because it's one wide. It has to have at least one tick on it, otherwise it'll burn out. Take about 2 seconds for it to burn out. But if you put it at least one tick, then you can have a constant signal going through it, and you can slow it down to as much as 4 ticks if you need a slower clock.
Very cool.
But, clocks are something that are a part of almost every build in one way or another. Of course, most of the other components that we've gone across, I don't think you can build much of anything without repeaters and comparators. But as a simple overview, try to familiarize everyone with what is what, and basically what it does. But as we start building things, we'll go into detail and show as many different ways to use those components as possible.
Okay, and finally, this is probably one of the original and simplest of clocks, would you say?
Yes, definitely. My first introduction to clocks.
Okay. So we have a repeater with redstone all around it, basically going back into a repeater. But there is one caveat with this one, is starting it. It has to be less than, is it a 2-tick pulse to get it started?
Yeah.
All right, so this is how I start it. So we just have to do this.
Good job. I can never get it right.
And so
now we have a green flashing beacon.
We have a green flashing beacon, exactly. But as you were showing over here, instead of doing it the old-fashioned way, we can do it.
What we need is a monostable circuit.
Exactly. All right, so why don't you demonstrate on this side?
Since it's a 1-tick pulse, it starts us up admirably.
Because if you used just a button or a lever, that wouldn't give us a 1-tick pulse, so we would not be able to get it started correctly.
Yeah, that's easy to demonstrate.
Yeah, let's do
Put
that.
put our redstone back, put a button on it,
Let me stop this side just because that's a little loud.
and it's far too long.
Right. So it just
And
creates a single circuit. Or
the signal doesn't have time to die out on one before it starts on the other one, so it just becomes solid. I believe that's a 2-tick clock, and that was the fastest clock I had seen until Mobius showed me this one. This is just so simple to build that if I could find some redstone. That's all there is to it, and a power source. Make sure that your comparator's in subtract mode, power it, and you get a 1-tick pulse.
Really? That's very cool.
That clock, as simple as it is, as basic as it is, can be so useful for so many things. It opened up a whole new world of builds for Mobius and I.
Very cool.
So, the little machines are there. I hope we've gone over sufficiently. And next we will take something. One of these, we'll pick one of these and we'll go into it in as much detail as we can without boring you to death.
That sounds perfect. Okay, well, I hope you found that informative and entertaining, and we will see you in the next episode where we're actually going to start applying some of these small machines and clocks into much larger builds. Until next time, I'm Howitzer.
I'm Rick, and we look forward to your questions and comments.
Take care, guys. See you soon.